What? The guy who made those low-quality YTPs is making an entirely new type of video? One where he talks? What is this? I demand to see the manager right now! Pikmin 4 is a pretty strange case. We were told way back in 2015 that the game was almost finished. In that time, we didn't even know what the Switch was, and let's be honest, at least I expected it to be released on the Wii U. But yet, here we are, with almost 1 year and a half since the release of the Switch, with E3 2018 looming ahead and still absolutely no news whatsoever about that game, other than the fact that it still is in development, at least as of 2017. If I were honest with myself, I'd say that if Pikmin 4 isn't officially announced this coming E3, well, I think we might consider this game cancelled. Maybe I'm just too negative about it, because hey, against all odds, we did get Metroid Prime 4, so yeah, anything can happen. Anyways, with that said, following are some things that I think we should expect, and things I hope happen. Remember, those are two different things, with the former being much more realistic than the latter, so in the end what you will see in this video is rather speculative, and so it's all with a grain of salt. This list will have 10 entries total and will be divided between actual expectations and hopes. So let's get to it. Both Pikmin 2 and 3 have introduced their own respective Pikmin types, with 2 having purple and white Pikmin, while 3 introduced the rock and winged Pikmin. Of course, all as well as the original red, yellow and blue Pikmin. When Pikmin 3 was released, I thought it would be awesome to have not 5 but 7 types of Pikmin with us. That got me pretty hyped. But as it turns out, purple and white Pikmin were not in the story mode and could only be found in the game's challenge mode, which did disappoint me. Since each of the new games so far have introduced 2 new types, I think it's fair to expect 2 new types to be introduced as well. What are they going to be? I have no idea, and anything I would say will be complete speculation and basically hopes and dreams. If the same pattern as the 2 previous games is followed, this means that the unique Pikmins of 2 and 3 most likely won't be featured, well, at least in the game's story. Either way, any new types of Pikmin should be fun to play. Now onto my first unrealistic hope. If you've played any of the Pikmin games, you do know that you can only have a maximum of 100 Pikmin on the field. While I can see the advantages of having such a limit, especially in the management part, I think it would be nice if this limit was expanded. Maybe 200? Even that would be pretty good in my opinion. While 100 was fine in the first Pikmin game since the maps were pretty small, it is in Pikmin 3 that 100 started to feel tiny in my opinion. Most of the maps started to get pretty big, and though of course it was perfectly manageable, I feel like if we could have more Pikmin, there could be even more strategies that could be done in those large maps. And since it is likely that map will be even larger, it might become furthermore important. To me, the micromanagement of the Pikmin is very important in those games, so I think that could greatly enhance that aspect. I'm already imagining the mess that will happen when we have such large groups getting attacked by monsters, and there is no one to guard the Pikmins, so it becomes a complete genocide. Having larger groups will certainly lead to more occasions like that, but I think that's part of the fun. It will all become more challenging. However, it is absolutely not a deal breaker if it remains 100, in my opinion. In the first Pikmin game, there was 1 captain, Olimar. In 2, there were 2 captains. In 3, there were 3 captains. I guess you see the pattern here and see where I'm going. I think it's likely Pikmin 4 will have 4 captains. However, I could see the possibility of them remaining at 3 if the balance ends up better. Anyway, In the first Pikmin, when Olimar was the only character to be played, you had to be extremely selective about the plan of actions, since you could only monitor, and importantly, control so many Pikmin that are dispersed all over the field. When you could finally control 2 captains, it really changed the way strategies were made, because it meant you could cover multiple areas at once, and so you could complete so many more tasks in little time. With 3 captains, there was the addition of those simple but fun puzzles, with the added possibility of throwing other captains. And once again, those things could help in creating new tactics that simply aren't possible with just 1 captain, which adds a lot of depth to the Pikmin gameplay. And we didn't even cover the Wii U gamepad aspects of it. Just imagine that! So, with Pikmin 4, if we do get 4 captains, I'm really wondering what new possibilities could rise, especially when combined with any brand new mechanics that could be introduced. As a kid, I was pretty disappointed Pikmin 2 did not have multiplayer in its story mode. Of course, there was the versus mode and challenge mode that could be played at 2 players, but me and my friend who were really passionate about Pikmin at the time kept wishing we could play through it with 2 controllers. When Pikmin 3 arrived, I thought that was it, and that finally we would be able to go through the story together and cooperate through the game. But once again, there was nothing. I will say, however, the challenge mode was really fun, so I suppose that sort of made up for it. With Pikmin 4, I will once again tell myself that it is the opportunity for multiplayer in story mode. I assume that it won't happen. It's nice to dream, and in line with my 4 captains argument, I think that adding multiplayer into the mix could add new depth to the element of strategy, so I'd be really curious to see what could be done with that. Pikmin 2 introduced the caves, which were actually separate from the main map and stopped the passage of time. Pikmin 3 made the maps larger and changed the cave system so that they were integrated directly into the overworld. The fact is, the exploration has evolved with each game. Due to that, it is reasonable to expect the same from Pikmin 4. Maybe they could introduce brand new environments we've never seen in a Pikmin game before, that would require us to play in a new way. Who knows? In any case, I think we can expect caves to come back, and if so, I do wonder in which way. Will it be more akin to Pikmin 2 or Pikmin 3? There are many questions like that which could lead to really interesting gameplay potential. Could they expand perhaps on water travel, like in Pikmin 3? Could verticality be expanded? The possibilities are really exciting. But in any case, it's fair to say that though maps as a whole will remain similar in design, there will be some new things introduced. For this one, the reason why I do not put this as an expectation is because of the much better part. Because the truth is, I do think we can expect some improvement in the current AI of the Pikmin. But I think expecting a tremendous change could be a bit unrealistic. Firstly, I think that the one area that needs improvement is the pathfinding. I swear to Shigboy, if the Pikmin keep falling off cliffs, or in water, or just plainly walking into fire, I will probably take out the rest into the headquarters. Seriously though, that would be such a welcome improvement. They already made efforts in Pikmin 3, it is a first step. It would also be awesome if the Pikmin could have battle tactics other than hitting monsters with their leaves, but I suppose that's more game mechanic than AI at this point. But really, hitting monsters with their leaves? Poor guys, I still feel terrible when they fall in battle. The first Pikmin game was pretty limited, since it had only 30 in-game days to complete everything. Since each day is around, what, 12 to 15 minutes? I don't remember. It means that there was little time to do all the tasks, and so this became a vital part of strategizing. With Pikmin 2, they decided to just drop the whole limit and say, let's have unlimited days! You still have the 12 to 15 minutes limit, of course, but other than that, you have an entire lifetime in front of you. With Pikmin 3, there is a limited amount of days, but it can be increased with the amount of food you collect. The more food you have, the longer the limit. Basically, you still had consequences to think about if you started wasting days, but it isn't as harsh as the original Pikmin game, and it is the best of both worlds. In that vein, I believe Pikmin 4 likely will have a similar system, since it made for a balanced challenge. Now, where I'm curious is, how would it explain story-wise the system? Ship fuel? Who knows? I spoke my mind earlier about my desire for multiplayer in the campaign. However, I would like to talk about the versus mode, that is, actually multiplayer. Pikmin 2 and 3s are different, and they're fine, but I feel like there aren't really much incentives to actually play them. I play them for what, maybe a dozen hours total in my life? I don't know, with the two games combined anyway. They're fun, but not to the point you really actively want to play them. It's a shame because I do think that the versus mode could truly have lots of potential. Maybe have an online version? I suppose it could be fun. I think it would be good if Pikmin 4 had multiple versus modes. Maybe those modes could focus on different aspects of gameplay. For example, looking to 2 and 3's versus modes, one of them could have as a primary goal to collect various stuff over the map. Another mode could maybe focus on combat, which will be even more fun if combat is expanded. As a whole, I feel like what the versus mode of Pikmin 4 needs, if there is one, is variety. So hopefully, that could maybe happen, and that could lead to a multiplayer we spend more time in, which would be even more critical if there is no story mode multiplayer. But again, that is just some hope. Chances are the multiplayer mode is just going to end up being collecting marbles. Yeah, or something along those lines. Not anything really special anyway. Though pretty much each and every map in each Pikmin games are well varied, they usually still tend to be pretty low in number. The first game had 5 maps, 2 had 4, and 3 went back to 5. Due to that, I think it's reasonable to say we should expect a similar number, especially if the maps themselves become larger in size, as said earlier. If it were up to me, I would love more maps for the sake of even more variety. The Pikmin games are incredibly beautiful in their art style, so I think that with more maps, this is what it might lead to. More variety. However, I still believe in the cliché phrase, quality over quantity, and if we get 4 or 5 maps that are excellent, well varied, and memorable, then I would take that over 9 or 10 maps that struggle to stay on our minds for a week or two. At the end of the day, what really will count is how the maps are designed rather than the number. Now, the next and final thing I will talk about is something that I both hope for and do not want. I know, it sounds weird, but it's because it's something that would fundamentally change the gameplay of Pikmin, and I don't think that is necessarily something I would want to lose for the potential fun it could provide. It is more akin to something I would be curious to see, since it's an area of Pikmin that never really has been explored. So here goes. Hopefully this idea might be worth it. The final part of this little list is being able to play during the night. Before you raise your pitchforks and brutally kill me, I would like to say again that this is more curiosity rather than an actual hope for Pikmin 4. Since the whole premise of a day in Pikmin relies on the fact you have to leave by the time night falls, it means that being able to play during that time would obviously completely change the way we play. In a good way? A bad way? I do not know. It would feel weird because to me a huge part of the appeal of the Pikmin series is the time management. Having to complete everything before night falls, so if this limit is pretty much gone, I wonder how I and everybody else would feel. Maybe make a map that is just permanently nighttime, because something during the day makes exploring too dangerous, so the characters have to go there during the night. I don't know, just trying to figure out story reasons as to why they would go at night. Either way, gameplay wise, why am I interested in nighttime gameplay in the first place? Well, to understand that, we have to look into the reason why we can't play during the night firstly. It's because there's too many monsters, and for some reason, I will be thrilled to see what that looks like. How is gameplay when there are so many monsters hunting you down as you try to go on normally with the things you normally do in the Pikmin game? I really wonder. Actually, when I think about it, we already have that! The caves from Pikmin 2! They were a goddamn mess. Some of them can have a really huge amount of enemies, with death awaiting at each corner. So really... Okay, we don't actually need any of this. Well, screw this part of the list. Seriously though, I admit that one thing I would really be curious about, genuinely, is how the levels look like at night. The closest we got to see that was Pikmin 1, where the day would end with the actual night starting. But for the other games, the day ends at the end of the dusk, so we never really get the opportunity to see what the night looks like. I feel like with Pikmin's particular art style, it could lead to some really beautiful environments, especially on the Switch. Due to that, I will say that I hope there is one level that has to be explored at night, again, just so that we could potentially see the possibility come to life. However, is it likely to happen? Absolutely not. So I suppose all we can do is just go and do some cheap color grading of day footage within any Pikmin levels, and voila! We have our night mood. Phew! Who knew it would be that simple? And with all of that said, this is the end of the video. At the end of the day, we don't know anything about the game. So really, I'm wondering what you guys think of Pikmin 4. What could possibly happen? What new mechanics could be introduced? What new maps? What new Pikmin? Don't hesitate to tell me what you guys think down in the comments. Or just don't say anything. Just do whatever you want. So, thank you very much for staying in this obnoxious video, and bye!